Let's get knitty. It's a great day to be alive and do some color work, and I thought I would share with you this colorwork sweater and talk about some of my strategies for putting this together. So just give you a little survey of this sweater. Now, for just so that you know, a lot of this yarn was thrifted. I was able to find quite a bit of worsted weight yarn over months, maybe even years of having an open mind about going to various Goodwill stores and just seeing what they had. And a lot of this is the Paytons or Paton, I don't know what your preferred pronunciation is, but some of this is that Canadian brand. And there are a few other skeins that I sort of serendipitously happened on. This is an Irish yarn, for example, these birds of paradise that you can kind of make out. And let me just give you a little bit of insight regarding my strategy. I like keeping my subject matter in view. And the basic strategy so here's one of the books I used, and I'll talk about these. Here's one of the books I used, and here's the third book I used. So we'll look at these in just a minute. But my basic strategy, so I had a lot of, random yarn. And I remember laying a bunch of skeins out on my bed and putting them in various orders to try to figure out what would make a nice progression. So if I show you a sleeve, for example, the sleeves match. Hey, Paris, here's a cat. The sleeves match the alignment of the colors. And as you can tell, well, I like animals. But I also wanted my sweater to be at least somewhat harmonious. Now, people might disagree, right? I've got pink over olive and this kind of thing. But I really did work on lining up these different colors of yarn in a way that, at least to me, seemed like it would work. And lately I've been looking into color theory. I should examine what I did. I think there's a little bit of complementary color scheme type stuff going on here. And then I decided for each band of color, I was going to break that up with some cream. So with some neutral colors. These motifs that are on the small side, those are called Peries. You probably already know that, but just in case you don't know, you do. And of course I have the navy collar, the navy cuffs, and the navy waistband. So the cream gray stripes and the navy top and bottom, they tie it all together, which I kind of like too. So, I could have gone for something really wacky and abstract. That might have been more progressive of me, but a lot of the models that I see for like Scandinavian sweaters, Fair Isle sweaters and this kind of thing, they really do harmonize, and you can see in my choice of needlepoint works too that I have a degree in art history, so I guess I learned all about putting motifs together in a way that's not like Jackson Pollock, but that would be kind of fun to try. So let's just take a peek here. This book is called Colorwork Creations, and the author is Susan Anderson Freed. So what we have here is mainly mittens and hats. But I could take, for example, this bird and just shove it onto my sweater. So is that the bird? Yeah, that's actually the bird. So I literally used this bird that's on the front cover, and I took it and I sort of designed it so that it would work. I even have the flowers, that it would work in my composition. Look at that. It's the same. Isn't that cool? And I used, that's probably, oh, there go the dogs again. They just gotta, let people know they're there. I think that's the only motif I took from that book by Anderson Freed. But then we have Mary Jane Mucklestone, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, but 200 Fair Isle motifs. And here, for example, this book is really beautiful because she shows you the motifs knitted up as well as the graphs in color and in black and white. And let me see. And these really are Fair Isle, right? So I was specifically looking for animal motifs, but the Peries that I use are largely informed by this book. So here's some example of Peries. They're just, they only cover 3 or 4 rows, something like that. They're very small motifs. They don't tend to be figurative. They tend to be abstract. But what it says on the back about exploring endless colorwork possibilities, that's really true. Because you can take any of these and you can adapt them. I have vivid memories of this bird of paradise, and it would have been nice if I had used more contrasting yarn for that. I'll probably reintegrate this into another sweater at some point. But I remember having to alter the pattern so that it would suit my purposes. For one thing, I didn't want to have a ton of really long floats going across. So I added in some material around where the bird's legs are and that to get more of both colors sort of interlocking, going across every row. One of these days I will take up, I think it's called Armenian knitting, where you do have super long floats and the contrasting yarn is supposed to show through the front. One of these days I'll try that, but I didn't with this particular project. But then I used another Mucklestone handbook, which is called 100 Scandinavian Motifs with Inspiration. And here, there we go. The goats are right here. So there we have her goats and my goats. Look at that. She's got red ones and I have green ones. And it was just such a joy. This sweater was so much fun. And lately I've been knitting with patterns. I guess I have a lot going on. And when I sit down to knit at night, I pick the most mind-numbing sock or something to knit on. But I was really inspired when I did this. And maybe after I retire in a few months here, I can go back to doing something that's equally exciting. But, I would take something like this and just, I've got some notes on this page to show me, for example, do I need to change the number of stitches on either side to work? If I have a row of 220 stitches and I need a motif that's 20 stitches wide, I'm going to repeat it 11 times. What's the math for that? So it was kind of fun to, challenge my skills. I have some notes here on the goat pattern. I'll show you the page where that is repeated for you. Oh, and there's the horsies. And the horsies are at the top here. It's a different horsey, but in any case, I have horsies. I kind of adapted it. But on, how I had to change the stitch count, especially in the background of each motif, to make it suit my purpose. But what I really like about this book is all the animals, because I just wanted to have a bunch of animals in this sweater, kind of like the bird sweater that I showed you a week or two ago. Let me see if I can find any more animals in here. And there's another book that I consulted, which I'll have to try to figure out which one it was. But here's cats, for example. So I really love this Scandinavian motif book, partly because of all the animals that are in it. Now, if I was even more creative, right, I could go off and I could just make my own. I could probably even adapt, say, needlepoint patterns or that kind of thing. But, this was at least pretty creative, and figuring out the colors was just a lot of fun, and figuring out, the width of each stripe. I do like the variety, the Peries here are quite large, and then I have a row here. So I used short row shaping, right? So this looks like that in the front, but in the back, it looks like that, because I had to use short row shaping to give me this, higher in the back thing going on, which to me it's just so much more comfortable not to be choked by the sweater I have on. But there are the goats. And then we have llamas. I found this out of a knitting magazine. Little llamas, and they're kind of rainbowy. So I have a variegated yarn that's going into the llamas, and then the birds of paradise, and then the I forgot what kind of bird. I'm just going to say it's a robin. It's probably a wren or something like that. But in any case, and then I had to work out different periods for the sleeves because the, stitch count was a little bit different. And so where I have the birds on the body of the sweater, here I have two. I have rabbits and owls because the birds were, it's like, well, I think the reason I did it, it's actually the same width, right? The reason I did it was just to have more fun. So it's like, I'll put same colors, different motifs. But for the rest of the sleeves, then I kept the llamas, I kept the birds. Just at the bottom is where I kind of got even more creative. So anyhow, there you go. I think it turned out really nice. The only thing I would have changed in the sweater is the sleeves ended up just a hair thin, narrow at the top. So I probably should have put like more width in the background between the llamas up here and expanded it a little bit. But I only made this sweater after maybe a year and a half or so of experience. So pretty proud of it. And I would definitely do this again. So I'll let you know when I do. Lately, the sweaters I've been working on are familiar techniques. They're a little more relaxing, a little bit less exciting, but more meditative, which is fine. So now I gotta finish those, but then I might go back to something that's more creative like this. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it inspires you to give things like this a try, to, embrace color work in all its glory. It's just, to me, it's one of the most wonderful approaches to knitting a garment because I love color. I'm glad that I can see color. My novel involves a blind protagonist who knits, and she can't see what she knits, but she knows intellectually what she's doing. So I just feel so privileged that I get to enjoy the sight of all this color. I hope you do too, and I hope that you're trying some projects like this. If you are, it'd be fun to hear from you in the comments. And if you have any questions about how I went about this, like the math of it and all that kind of thing, let me know that too. Thanks for listening. See you soon. Ciao.